Hello, welcome to today's installment of Daf Yomi using Shashas edition Menachot Daf 41 Omid B. So let's dive straight in. So it says, Vuvesh lo tehei b'tzekes shamat mina matim mibeged leveged dilma dei balai. This is permitted provided that strings are not broken. So what does this mean? The point is that this is viewed as attaching the strings to the garment initially, in which cases the minimum length the strings must have, as discussed subsequently on 41b, which is longer than the minimum length for strings that were attached to the garment, which later shortened. See 38b and Shitim Beses. The read records a different version of the Gemara text, provided that the strings were broken. This means that the strings must be differentiated when they are initially attached to the garment. One may not attach one long string that is folded over and then cut it on the folds in order to create separate strings once it is already attached to the garment. And that's where Rabbeinu Gershom Mo Hagoda explained that the standard version of the Gemara text along similar lines. The Gemara asks, should one conclude from this brayta that it is always permitted to untie ritual fringes from one garment in order to affix them to another garment? The Gemara rejects this inference. Perhaps the ruling of this brayta applies only to if the first garment was worn out and no longer wearable. The sages taught in a brayta. In the case of a cloak that is made entirely of sky blue wool, strings of every type of colour exempt it. What does that mean? Kol minei sivonin potrin bo. The verse states, and they shall put on the fringe of the corner a sky blue thread. Numbers 15:38. The phrase "the fringe of the corner" indicates that some of the strings should be the same colour as the garment itself, which generally seem to be white, while others must be sky blue. According to the Raavad, the strings are the colour of the garment. The strings that are the colour of the garment must be attached to the garment before the sky blue strings are attached. Rashi explained that in this case here, it's impossible for the strings that are not sky blue to be the same colour as the garment, because the garment itself is sky blue. Consequently, the strings that are not sky blue may be any colour other than sky blue or indigo. I.e., the ritual fringes that are not techelet may be any colour except for indigo. Chutz makala Elon. Rashi suggests two possibilities with regard to why these ritual fringes are unfit. His second and primary explanation is that the ritual fringes must contain two different colours. Indigo is the same colour as the sky blue techelet required by the Torah. According to his explanation, if one does use strings dyed with indigo in addition to the strings dyed with techelet, the ritual fringes are inherently unfit. Rashi's first explanation is that the ritual fringes are unfit due to a rabbinic decree. The concern is that one might take strings that are dyed with indigo and attach them to another garment, thinking that they are techelet. This could lead to violate the prohibition against wearing a garment containing woolen linen, where it is not necessary to fill the midst of ritual fringes. The colour is indistinguishable from techelet. This indicates that if one attached strings dyed with indigo alongside the strings dyed with techelet, the ritual fringes are unfit. The Gemara raised an objection from a brayta. A cloak is exempted only by strings of its own type. In Pota Bo Elamina, Rashi explains that this means strings that are the same colour as the garment. E.g., if the garment is red, the strings that are not sky blue should be red. This is apparently the understanding of the Rambam as well. Tosfot disagree and hold, based on the statement of Rava in 38b, that the type refers to the material from which the garment is made and not to its colour. Others maintain that the brayta here defines the type as referring to the colour, but the Mishnah 38a disagrees and defines it as a type of material, and Rava follows the opinion of the Mishnah, and that's from the response of the Rashba 3:280. What was the other footnote? The halacha footnote. There are authorities who hold that ritual fringes must be the same colour as a garment. Those who are meticulous about the observance of mitzvot follow this practice. This is in accordance with the Brayta's interpretation of Rashi from the Gemara. Some explain that this is in order to show honour for the mitzvah by performing it in a beautiful manner, and that's in the Beis Yosef side and Tosfot the Ramah right that the practice of Ashkenazic Jews is to use white strings regardless of the colour of the garment, and that one should not deviate from this practice. Later commentary cited in Mishnah is therefore recommended wearing a garment that is white, or at least has white corners, so that one can wear white strings that are the same colour as the garment. And from the Rambam Sefer Hava, Hilchot Sisis 2a, Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim 9.5. In the case of a cloak that is made entirely of sky blue wool, Teles shekula techeles. If one has a cloak that is made entirely of sky blue wool, he may attach strings of any color, as long as they are not sky blue, and as in the case of Mishnah, or a color dark enough to be confused with sky blue. He should include a single string of sky blue as usual, which he should also use to wind around the other string. That's the Rambam Sefer Hava Hilchos 2:8. One bring sky blue to chelet strings and something else, eye strings of a different color, and attaches them to the cloak. And he may not bring strings dyed with indigo along with the strings dyed with techelet. But if he brought strings dyed with indigo together with strings dyed with techelet, the ritual fringes are fit. Hamnaman by Yitzchak said, this is not difficult, because here in the Brisa that holds that the ritual fringes are fit after the fact, is referring to a cloak that has only 4 strings. What does that mean? Besides bas arba chutin b'chula. According to Rashi's second explanation, there is an inherent need for strings that are not sky blue, in addition to the strings that are sky blue, and indigo cannot be used for either of these types of strings. Consequently, if there are only 4 strings and 2 of them are techelet, 2 are indigo, the fringes are unfit even after the fact. If there are already 4 strings of techelet and another color, and now one wants to add an additional 4 strings, the sages decree that he should not add strings dyed with indigo, lest one later transfer them to a different garment under the assumption that they are techelet. But if one did add these strings, ritual fringes remain fit due to the original 4 strings. According to Rashi's explanation, the only reason that strings dyed with indigo are unfit is due to the concern that one might transfer them to another garment under the assumption that they are techelet. If there are only 4 strings on the garment and 2 are techelet and 2 are indigo, the ritual fringes are fit after the fact. This is because it is unlikely that one will transfer any of the strings to a different garment, because one may not have fewer than 4 strings on the original garment. But if there are 8 strings on this garment, 4 of which are techelet and 4 of which are indigo, there is a much greater concern that one will transfer some of the indigo strings to a different garment and use them as techelet. Consequently, the sages declared the ritual fringes on this garment to be unfit even after the fact. 2 of techelet and 2 of indigo. There in the Brisa that holds that ritual fringes are unfit after the fact is referring to a cloak that has 8 strings, 4 of techelet and 4 of indigo. In this case, the sages were concerned that one would take the 4 indigo strings from this garment and use them in another garment, thinking that they were techelet. The Gemara asks, should you conclude from the fact that the sages were concerned lest one take the indigo strings from this garment for use in another garment, and that in general may untie ritual fringes from one garment in order to affix them to another garment? The Gemara responds, perhaps their concern was that if one did transfer the strings, he might mistake indigo for techelet, but it is not permitted to transfer the strings ab initio. It was stated that there was a dispute between the Amoraim with regard to this halacha. Rabbi says, one may not untie ritual fringes from one garment in order to affix them to another garment. Ein mativim mibeged leveged. This is due to the fact that when the strings are detached from the first garment, they are not being used for a mitzvah, and this is considered a sign of disrespect to the ritual fringes, and that's for She'ela de Rav Ahagon 126. Rashi explains that the concern is for the denigration of the garment, as untying its strings indicates that the garment is no longer fit for ritual fringes. And Shammai says one may untie them from one garment and affix them to another garment. So it's a footnote there. Mativin, one may untie. Shmuel's reasoning is that since one is attaching the strings in order to attach them to a different garment, this does not constitute disrespectful behavior toward the ritual fringes. Shmuel himself holds in 41a that the mitzvah ritual fringes pertains to the garment, and therefore one must have ritual fringes on all four corner garments he owns, even if he's not wearing them. The case here must be where one has only one set of ritual fringes, in which case it is better that he attach ritual fringes to the garment he is wearing than to have them attached to the garment he is not wearing. From Tosfot. The early commentaries add that one may not remove ritual fringes from a garment if he has no intention of attaching them to another garment. Some hold that it is prohibited to remove the strings only if one intends to continue wearing the garment. If he does not intend to continue using this garment, there is no concern at all. And so the Rambam See the Rambam for the discussion on this topic. See the Birkei Yosef or Chaim 15:2. It's permitted to untie ritual fringes from one garment to tie them onto another. This is the halacha in the case of both the white strings and the sky blue ones. It is prohibited to untie the ritual fringes if one does not intend to attach them to another garment. This is according to the opinion of Shmuel. Nevertheless, it is permitted to detach the ritual fringes in order to replace them with nicer ones, or because one of the strings broke and he wants to replace it with a full string. See the Mishnah Berurah. As this is a beautification of the mitzvah. Sefer Hava Hilchot Tzitzis 113 Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim 15:1. The Gemara cites additional disputes between Rav and Shmuel. Rav says one may not light from one Hanukkah lamp to another Hanukkah lamp, and Shmuel says one may light from one Hanukkah lamp to another Hanukkah lamp. Lighting one Hanukkah lamp directly from another is permitted, but one may not use a Hanukkah lamp to light a lamp that will not be used for the mitzvah, even if he intends to use that lamp to light another Hanukkah lamp. This is according to the opinion of Rav, as the later MOMC Shabbat 22a analyzed his opinion and therefore seemed to accept it. This was on Shabbat 22b. The Omar writes that it is customary to be stringent with Hanukkah lights and to refrain from lighting one lamp from another, even directly. The Mishnah Berurah citing Darkei Moshe adds that one is permitted to light from one lamp used for a mitzvah to another. In the case of other lights lit for a mitzvah, e.g. those of Shabbat and the synagogue. I'm a Sefer Zaman Hilchot Megillah v'Chanukah 49 Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim 674-1. Rabbi Shimon rules that it is permitted to drag items on Shabbat despite the possibility that one might thereby create a furrow in the ground. Creating a furrow is a labor prohibited on Shabbat, but since he does not intend to create the furrow, and it is not certain that a furrow will be created, dragging the item is permitted. Rav says the halacha is not in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Shimon with regard to dragging items on Shabbat. And Shmuel says that the halacha is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Shimon with regard to dragging items on Shabbat. Abai said in all halachic matters of the Master Rabbah, he conducted himself in accordance with the opinion of Rav, except these three where he conducted himself in accordance with the opinion of Shmuel. He ruled that one may untie ritual fringes from one garment in order to affix them to another garment, and one may light from one Hanukkah lamp to another Hanukkah lamp, and halacha is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Shimon about the dragging items on Shabbat. As this is taught in the Brayta, Rabbi Shimon says a person may drag a bed, chair, or bench. Gora adam mita kisei v'safsal. A person may drag a bed, chair, or bench on Shabbat, provided that he does not intend to dig a furrow. This is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Shimon, who holds that it is permitted to perform an act that may cause a prohibited labor to occur, as long as one does not intend to perform the prohibited labor. The Magen Avraham notes that if the object is so heavy that dragging it will certainly create a furrow, then it's prohibited to drag it. That's the Rambam Sefer Zamanim, Hilchot Shabbat 1.5, Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim 337-1. On the ground Shabbat, provided that he does not intend to make a furrow in the ground. Even if a furrow is formed inadvertently, one does not need to be concerned. The Gemara relates that Rabbi Yehuda would give his garments containing ritual fringes to a laundryman, and was not concerned that the strings dyed with chelet might become detached, and that the laundryman would replace them with strings dyed with indigo. Rav Hanina would form a bundle. What does that mean? Rav Hanina Aved La Sisa. Some explain that according to both Rav Hanina and Rava, it is prohibited to remove ritual fringes from a garment even in order to attach them to a different garment. Therefore, they attempted to make it difficult to remove the strings Sefer HaItur. Rashi explains that they were trying to ensure that the strings would not be severed inadvertently. Rabbi Gershom Mohagolo holds that Rav Hanina wrapped the ritual fringes inside other strings in order to protect the hue of the sky blue strings with the ritual fringes so that they would not become detached while they were being laundered. Ravina would tuck them into a pocket he formed on the garment and would sew the cover of the pocket in order to protect the ritual fringes. The sages taught in a Brayta how many strings does one place on a garment? Kama chutin hu nosein. One must attach 4 strings to each corner of the garment. This is according to the opinion of Beis Shammai, which is accepted by Rav Papa. One of the strings are inserted into the hole in the corner in order to hang down on each side. There are 8 strings hanging down. If one attaches additional strings, the ritual fringe are unfit. Some hold it is permitted to add extra strings. See the Mishnah Berurah. Rashi and Tosfot hold that 2 of the strings are white and 2 are sky blue to chelet. The Ravid holds that 3 strings are white and 1 is sky blue. The Rambam holds that only one half of a string is sky blue. When inserted into the garment, one of the 8 strings hanging down is sky blue. When the chelet are not available, one attaches 4 white strings. And the Rambam Sefer Havahilchat Tzitzis 1:6, Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim 11:12. Beis Shammai say 4 strings. Beis Shammai Omim Abba. Of these 4 strings, 2 are sky blue and 2 are white. From the Tosfot, the Ravid holds that 3 are white and 1 is sky blue. The Rambam holds that half of 1 string is dyed sky blue. Therefore, once the strings are inserted into the garment and allowed to hang down on both sides of the hole, there are 7 white strings and 1 sky blue string. The sky blue string is then used to wind around the other 7 strings, inserted into the hole in the garment. So there are 8 strings hanging down altogether. And Beis Hillel say 3 strings are inserted into the garment. And how much should be hanging? Mishul leshet. What does that mean? The minimum length for which a fringe is 4 finger breadths, which is equal to 1 hand breadth, and the Rambam and the Rosh. Some hold that the knots and windings must be 4 finger breadth, and the strings must hang down an additional 8 finger breadths beyond that. And the Menachot Daf, this is the accepted practice. These measurements refer to the length of the strings after the first knot, and do not include the portion of the string that rests on the garment. Beis Hillel says the string that winds around the others must be longer than the others. According to the Chazon Ish, 1 finger breadth is 2.4 centimeters, while Chaim Nai holds that it is 2 centimeters. That's from Rambam Sefer Havahilchat Tzitzis 1:6, Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim 11:4. Rashi understands that the word Mishuleshes is the same as Mishuleshet, meaning hanging. It refers to the length of the loose strings that hang down from the wrapped portion of the ritual fringes. Others explain that on the contrary, it refers to the wrapped portion, which resembles a chain, shashelet, explanation of Rashi on Bracha 39b, Rabbeinu Tam. According to the explanation, there must then be a portion of loose strings that is twice as long as the wrapped portion. This is based on the fact that the Gemara in 39a states that the portion of the strings that contains the knots and windings should be 1/3 of the total length of the strings. Other commentators understand that the Gemara is referring to the total length of the ritual fringes. Rabbeinu Gershom Hagolah and Rid citing Rav Amon Gon. It would appear that the Rambam understood Mishuleshet to mean divided equally, referring to the length of the 2 sides of each string after the string is inserted into the hole in the garment. Beyond the knots and winding, Beis Shammai say 4 finger breadths, and Beis Hillel 3 finger breadths. And 3 finger breadths that Beis Hillel say should be hanging each 1/4 of a hand breadth, a tefach. What's a tefach? A hand breadth is a measurement that is mentioned in Torah Exodus 25:25. It refers to the length of the 4 fingers when they are side by side. By contrast, an expansive hand breadth is measured with the fingers spread apart. There are those who understand the term to relate to the palm of one's hand. Consequently, the Radak explains that the term metapehin, which in rabbinic literature means clapping, reflects the fact that one strikes his 2 palms together. Calculations for the measurement of the hand breadth range between 8 centimeters and 9.6 centimeters in the Chazon Ish of any average person. The Gemara knows that Rav Papa said the hand breadth of the Torah is 4 finger breadths if measured by the thumb, 6 finger breadths if measured by the smallest finger, and 5 if measured by the third, i.e. the middle finger. Rav Huna says that the halacha is one must attach 4 strings with 4 finger breadths of the edge of the garment, and they should hang down 4 finger breadths beyond the knots and windings. Rav Yehuda says one must attach 3 strings within 3 finger hand breadths of the edge of the garment, and they should hang down 3 finger breadths beyond the knots and windings. B'toch shalosh, within 3. The ritual fringes should be inserted into the garment through a hole or 2 holes, not more than 3 finger breadths from the edge of the garment, as beyond that is no longer considered the corner of the garment. Some hold that the measure is 3 thumb breadths, and some hold that it is the width of the 3rd, 4th, and 5th fingers together. This is in accordance with the opinion of Rav Papa Rambam Sefer Havahilchat Tzitzis 1:6, Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim 11:9. Rav Papa says that the halacha is that one must have had 4 strings within 3 finger handbreadths of the edge of the garment, and they should hang down 4 finger breadths beyond the knots and windings. The Gemara asks, is this to say that ritual fringes have a required measure? And the Gemara raises a contradiction to this from a Braita. The verse states that they should prepare for themselves strings. Numbers 15:38. Strings are nothing other than that what emerges from the corner of the garment. And so strings indicates only that there must be strings of any length. And it had already occurred that the elders of Beis Shammai and the elders of Beis Hillel ascended to the attic of Yochanan ben Betera, and they discussed the matter and said ritual fringes have no measure. Similarly, a lulav has no measure. What does this not mean that the ritual fringes have no required measure at all? The Gemara answers no. That's the end of the Omid. Wish you a very good Shabbos and peace in Israel. All the best. Bye.